Welcome to the latest edition of the LL Football Roundtable brought to you by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. My name is Mike Gross from LNPLancasterOnline.com, and my familiar colleagues are alongside John Walk and Jeff Reinhardt. How's it going, guys? Not too much detail on how it's going.
Out of the hospital and back home, thank you for the well wishes and tweets and emails. Appreciate it.
We're heading into the postseason now, and we've got 8 games to talk about. Some of our teams, we have 12 teams that have qualified for the postseason. Some of them have first round byes, some of them don't. We have 8 games to talk about, and we'll be getting into breaking down those games in a couple of minutes. But first, as is our custom, one of our troops heads out to interview and talk with some of the combatants. And in this case, John went to Manheim Township. Tell us what you did in Manheim Township, John.
All right, so the Blue Streaks have a big District 3 Class 6A football first-round game. They're the number 8 seed going to number 1 Central York. Central York is undefeated at 10-0. We'll talk more about that game when we get back. We're going to go out to Nashville, talk to the Blue Streaks, who are going into this first-round game as basically the underdog, 8 seed going to a 1 seed. So let's head out to Manheim Township for those interviews.
Here you guys are again, back in the district playoffs, but I know you've been an 8 seed before, but it's a little bit different scenario. You haven't been in this in a long time. So you're looking at a Central York team that's loaded on both sides of the ball. I want to start off with asking you about Jerry Yunchik, the Central York coach, who we all know, former Lebanon. I know it's been 4 years since Township played Lebanon. I know it's probably different players, Lebanon, as compared to what Central York has now, but does it help your preparations at all, knowing what a Jerry Yunchik offense wants to do?
Sure, there's a lot of familiarity between Jerry and I. We're very good friends, you know. So we played each other for many years while we were at Elko versus Lebanon. So there's a long history here between good friends. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a little familiarity, but he's at a different level now. Mm-hmm. So you know, obviously we have to prepare for a lot more stuff and the athleticism side of things. So yeah.
For those who aren't familiar with Manheim Township, we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. What do the Blue Streaks do well? What's kind of your bread and butter?
We like to spread the ball around, you know, contract our offense, expand our offense, give different looks, keep their defense on their toes.
How would you say defensive end, that side, has grown from week 1 to now week 11?
We've definitely grown more physical. We're all doing our jobs, starting to really hit our stride there as well.
When you look at Central York on film, what kind of stands out about them that you're, Jones and 4 on Friday?
Well, you know, they have a good quarterback. We know that. We're just going to come out and play hard. I mean, number 8 teams never beat a number 1 team ever. So we're going to come out ready to fight, ready to play.
There is no pressure. You know, the bottom line is let's just go out and play and execute one play at a time and focus on what's in front of us. That's the key.
All right, welcome back from Nashville, and yeah, let's get into the portion of breaking down these games, give you guys our predictions and kind of what we think about each matchup. And since we're out at Manheim Township, let's talk about the Blue Streak, 6-4, going to Central York, 10-0. Township coming off a 21-14 Week 10 loss to Wilson. Central York coming off a 60-14 win over a very good York High team. By the way, Township now, their 4 losses, all coming by 1 score or less. 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, and 7 points. So They've been in every game. So even though they're the number 8 seed at 6-4, I still think they're very much in this. And a couple of trivia things. Central York is the defending District 3 6A champion and reached the state title game last year. And at least in the largest classification that I could find, I went back through all the brackets. District 3 Class 6A. In the largest classification, the top-seeded team has not lost in the first round, whether that be a 16-team, 8-team, 4-team bracket. So Township, as you heard, talking about pulling off history on Friday night, that's kind of what they were referring to. All right, with all that being said, let's get into kind of the breakdown of this game anyway. And, Mike, I want to throw it to you first because we know Central York has a pretty good quarterback, and you're relatively familiar with him since you're a Penn State football guy.
Yeah, he is a Penn State commit. His name is Bo Pribula. He was a 4-star recruit, and he is a very athletic kid. who it seems like he's been more of a passer and less of a runner than he was last year, which probably just indicates, what he's got around him is a little different. And Central York it does not seem like they've been quite as dominant as they were last year all through the schedule. Last year, they killed everybody they played in the regular season, got all the way to the state final and lost to St. Joseph Prep, which, as I've said many times, doesn't count because that's not a high school. But they did sent a pretty impressive message last week, dropping 60 on York, York is a pretty good team. So maybe they're figuring it out. In their last 5 games, they've scored 60, 48, 53, and 60 in 4 of those 5 games. So their role, I think they've been better the second half of the year than they were the first. And I think that they're a slight favorite here. I expect Township to show up and fight. Township has proven that they can play good people tough.
Oh, yeah.
And they're better than 6-4. There's no question in my mind about that. But I like Central York. I think Central York is the favorite here. So what do you guys? How do you guys see it?
Yeah, I think we've all been kind of saying when we get to that first weekend of districts, throw the records out. There's a lot of 6-4s and 5-5s and 7-3s that are better, that are definitely better than that. Probule is fantastic. 2,100 plus passing yards. Hines, Smith, Manigault, like the fun bunch of wideouts. So he's got weapons all over the place. Central York, I thought this was a neat stat. Central York has won 25 regular season games in a row, going back to 2019. Wow. So their last loss was in August of 2019 against Cumberland Valley by a point. So they've been good. They've been steady, and Yonchik's been great over there. And we all kind of knew he was gonna do his thing. He was gonna go air raid, and he has the weapons right now to do it. So tall task for Township's defense here. But agree with what Mike said. They're in every game. Their losses are by 13 points total, 14 off the top of my head. So I expect it to be a game. I don't think this is going to be 60-7 or anything. But I have Central York circled. Defending champs, experienced D1 commit quarterback. They've been in these games now the last couple of years, and they were in Hershey last year for the finale. So I think the Panthers kind of find a way here, but it's been a great ride for Township. And like Mike has reminded us a lot, Township's young, and they bring a lot back next year.
Watch them next year. Watch them next year.
Not that they can't win this game and shock the world, but Central York at home is a really tall task. So the pick is Central York, but I think Township puts up a good fight.
A couple things for me. One is an injury note. Central York linebacker Carter Glassmeyer broke his leg in last Friday's game. He had a team-leading 109 tackles in 7 games. He has an offer from Duquesne and then a bunch of D2 offers, including a lot from the PSAC. Yeah. So he's basically the heart and soul of that defense, and now he's out. So that's something worth paying attention to, how that affects the Panthers' D. Yeah. But the other kind of deciding factor for me is looking at the common opponents. There's 2 of them. Dallastown and Hempfield. Now for Dallastown, Central York beat Dallastown week 9, 31-21. Manheim Township lost to Dallastown in week 2, 41-38. And then Hempfield, Central York beat Hempfield in week 3, 35-21. And Manheim Township lost to Hempfield 17-14. So I was kind of on the edge with this and leaning towards Central York, and that kind of nudged me in that way. I just think a lot of their numbers, and even when you look at the points scored, I think it's 400-some to 300-some. As far as comparing offenses, both spread offenses, by the way. So this could be an air raid type of deal. So I'm going to take Central York here.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I think of Dallastown was too early for Township.
Sure.
So I kind of throw that one out, but I think the Hempfield one is a very legitimate comparison, John. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dallastown kind of fell apart near the end there, and even that Dallastown game was a 31-28 Township loss, and there was basically 2 plays away from Township winning that, but it is what it is. All right, staying in Class 6A, number 5 Wilson 7-3, going to number 4 York High 7-2. Wilson coming off that 21-14 win over Township. York High coming off the 60-14 loss to Central York. And I would think York High is really fast. They can run the ball. They can kind of move it through the air. Wilson's really come on strong here as of late as far as the run game is concerned. I keep wondering, okay, what happens to the Bulldogs if an opposing defense can put a lid on the run game? But nobody seemed to be able to do that so far. So this was kind of a coin flip game to me, which is not a surprise, number 5 and a number 4. I have Wilson circled just kind of based off how the Bulldogs have been playing these last few weeks. And I mean, York High has been there. They've been in really big games and have been on this stage the last 3 or 4 years. So they're not shy to these big games. But I don't know. Anytime you lose 60-14 in Week 10, I mean, Central York, I know Central York, but I just feel like these are kind of two teams feeling kind of different directions, as Jeff kind of likes to say. So I like Wilson. How about you guys?
What do we know about the health of York? Do we know anything about injuries with them?
I thought I heard through the grapevine that they're missing a couple of starters. I don't know if one of them is Jaheim White, their excellent running back.
Oh yeah. I haven't heard anything. You
They're
think you
missing
would have
him.
heard about that? Yeah.
We would have heard if it was White. If they're missing him, that could be some problems.
I think teams that can throw it or teams that can make you throw it are going to cause a lot of trouble for Wilson. I'm not sure if York is that. I'm not sure if that's the description for York. I agree with John. This is one of the toughest of these 8 that we're going to talk about. This is one of the 2 or 3 toughest in my mind. But I'm going to go with Wilson a little. It is interesting to think about how a team responds to losing 60-14 the week before you enter the district playoffs. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing or not, or if we'll sort of retroactively decide it's a thing after we see the result, which means it doesn't count. But anyway, I like Wilson very, very slightly. This is one of the toughest calls of the week.
Yeah. If Jaheim White they call him Florida, by the way. If he plays and he's healthy and he's good and he rushes for 250, 300 yards, look out. But I love the way Wilson's going right now. Healthy, their O-line is rugged. Hoffman and Jones have gone back-to-back 130-plus rushing yards, back-to-back weeks. Jones rushed for 170 last week. Hoffman has just been a different kid the second half of the season. That's the section games, basically. That's kind of when the flip switched for Wilson since the section.
And didn't he miss a couple early games?
Hoffman missed a game. Jaden Jones missed a couple of games.
Yeah.
But they've found it. Wilson has found it, and their defense has been good. Again, if White rushes for some ludicrous number, look out. But if Wilson kind of curtails him and keeps him around 100 and out of the end zone, Wilson can definitely win. Bulldogs have a chip on their shoulder, too. They thought they should have been in last year, and District 3 did not let them in at the last second. So they've been waiting for this game. Regardless of opponent, Wilson has been waiting for this game, and I think they take care of business here. I'll go Bulldogs.
All right, staying in Class 6A, number 6 seed Hempfield, 6-4 overall, going to number 3 Central Dauphin East, 7-3 overall. This is at Central Dauphin High School, by the way. Hempfield coming off a 27-0 win over Penn Manor. Meanwhile, CD East coming off a 28-20 loss to Carlisle. Now Carlisle is 7-3, is seeded number 7 in this Class 6A bracket, so they are a pretty good team. And CD East looking down their players, talking about another Penn State commit. Mike, you might be familiar with this guy on the CD East side, if you can inform the listeners about that.
You talking about Mackay Flowers. Yeah, Mackay Flowers is a guy who is kind of being recruited as an athlete by Penn State. They could see him possibly playing defense at the next level, although he is mostly known as a wide receiver. He was at Steel High last year and was probably the best player on a team that won the state championship in Class A and transferred away. So I don't know what's going on there, but he is a very athletic guy who is a factor on both sides of the ball. And CD East has lost 2 of their last 4. They seem to be really coming on. Beat Central Dauphin in week 9, but Central Dauphin seems to have collapsed a little bit late in the year. I'm not sure what went on there. So they're really, I have a hard time getting a handle on CD East. And I know that Hempfield can play defense, and I know that Hempfield is similar to Township, can handle athletic teams, can play with the teams that have, numbers and athletes and all. I mean, this is 6A. They're real 6A teams, So I picked Enfield here. I hope I'm not being too much of a homer, but I like the Black Knights a little, just because of how well coached they are, how solid they are. Uh, they have a quarterback that I think you can trust in these spots. I think people use that phrase too much sometimes. Trust, but I like it here. So I picked Hempfield.
Wow. I guess it's too late for me to change my pick. I have CDE circled. You totally talked me into Hempfield there. I'll tell you what. No, you're right. And I probably circled CD East because they're at home and the Flowers factor, and he can get you so many different ways and special teams as well. I did see CD East against Warwick back in week 2, which seems like 3 years ago. And I liked their athleticism, and they had some kids who could run the ball, and they had some size up front. And Tony Powell, the quarterback, is good and can make plays on his feet. I think this is close and goes down to the wire. This is like 20-17 or something like that. Love what Hempfield's done this year, and nothing, I guess, would surprise me here. But for pick purposes, I did pick CD East. But this should be a great game.
Of all the teams that are playing Friday night, CD East is the one that I have the hardest time getting a handle on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they are.
No.
And if they are what they have appeared to be at their best this year, then they probably would be the favorite here,
Yeah,
I guess. But I'm not sure.
And even though I saw them, granted that was, whatever, August.
That was early. They beat Township too.
And they
beat. I mean, no, they didn't. The Township beat them.
Yeah, but it was close, 24-21, right down to the wire, and
Yeah.
CD East was lined up for the game-tying field goal and didn't hit it. I lost my train of thought, but I don't know. I didn't realize they were 2-2 down the stretch. I knew they lost to Carlisle last week. I don't know. Hempfield can certainly win this game, but Flowers is the X Factor kid. And I know what I was going to say. The Warwick game, Warwick should have won the game flat out. I mean, they were up 21-7 in the first half and let them back in it. And I thought Warwick should have won that game. So I don't know.
If Warwick wins that game, then CD East is 0-2, and it could go a whole different way, But
maybe Central Dolphins and who knows?
I don't know what we're dealing with in CD East. I think more than any other team that's playing on Friday night.
Agreed, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I was just looking over the stats of those two games you guys were talking here. Against Warwick, CD East had 280 some yards of offense. Against Township, they had just over 300 yards of offense. So they were able to move the ball relatively.
I mean, that's not a ton. That's not
sure. Yeah. Jeff, do we know the last time Hempfield won a District 3 playoff game?
Off the top of my head, no.
I just haven't had time to do a lot of that trivia work. Plus, if I just looking at it last night, I think it's only updated through like 2018, and they don't have the 2019 and 2020 brackets on the new District 3 website. Come on, Rod. No, I'm kidding.
It wasn't all that long ago. I'd say.
Sure.
Remember the year when they got to the final and lost to McDevitt like 31-30 or something? That might be longer ago now than it seems to me.
That was early 2000s, I want to say.
Yeah,
that was when I was in high school, I believe. I think that might have been. No, seriously, that might have been fall of 05, because I remember they had a really good quarterback whose name escapes me. But they made a deep run that year.
Isn't that the guy that went to William and Mary, I believe?
I think so, yeah. Anyways, and as far as weapons go, Mekhi Flowers, the 4-star wideout, as Mike said, is being recruited as an athlete. They also have running back Marcel McDaniels, who is a top-level linebacker, apparently, so a two-way guy, and really good linebacker in Thaddeus Krebs, DB Jakari Malden. McDaniels last week against Central Dauphin had 178 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, so that's something worth of note. But as Mike mentioned, the Hempfield defense has been right there, one of the best in the LL League, 173 points allowed is 5th best in the league, holding opponents to 230 yards per game, which is 3rd best in the league, and has held opponents to 2 scores or less in 5 of their 10 games this season, including last week's shutout, their first of the year. So I just feel like the Black Knights have been coming on strong and have played if not the toughest, one of the tough schedules of any team in the LL League. So I also have the Black Knights circled here. All right, let's go to Class 5A. Number 9 seed Gettysburg, 7-3 overall, going to number 8 Warwick, 6-4 overall. The Warriors coming off a 41-0 win over Conestoga Valley. Meanwhile, Gettysburg coming off a 31-28 win over Twin Valley. So both teams beat a team with a valley in their name, apparently. Anyway, the winner of this advances to the District 3 5A quarterfinals at top-seeded Governor Mifflin, who we've been saying all year is one of the best teams in the state, if not the best team in the state, regardless of classification. So you got a buzzsaw waiting next week. And we can talk about that next Friday. But let's talk about this game. We know Warwick can move the ball around, and then in the pouring rainstorm last week, they handed off to Christian Rohr, and he went for 200 rushing yards and a couple touchdowns. So they can get the ball moving on both sides of the ball. My concern all year with Warwick has been that defense. They got slashed for 300 plus yards in week 9 against Cocalico's Anthony Barassa. So I don't know, maybe they woke up a little bit, figured something out, and shutting out a good Conestoga Valley offense. What do you guys make of that?
Well, I'm frankly looking more at Gettysburg than I am at Warwick, because we know that, we hear about, I was dealing with all this college football playoff stuff last night, and they're talking about quality wins. Well, Warwick has quality wins. They beat LS. They beat Manheim Central. They didn't probably have as good a year as they should have, or as they think they should. Certainly, they think they should have. But we know that they can play with these people. Cedar Crest dropped 52 on Gettysburg. Kennard-Dale dropped 62 on Gettysburg. I like Warwick here.
Yeah, I have Warwick circled. Despite those two scores that you just dropped, believe it or not, it looks like defense has kind of been their calling card. They're only giving up a little over 200 yards a game, which is pretty good. But I looked at their offensive numbers, and nothing jumped off the page. Like the quarterback hasn't even passed for 1,000 yards. Not that that's the end-all be-all stat. But they have a couple of rushers who are at 400 plus. So Warwick, just an experienced team, been through a lot of these big slug-it-out games. And if you go into Manheim and beat the Barons when the Barons were undefeated and playing really well.
Yeah, that's my point. I don't think Gettysburg has quality wins.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they're 7-3. I'm sure they're, fine. They've had a good year. They've been good for a while.
Yeah.
Now, my year after year, they've been good, solid, but I don't see quality wins here.
And Warwick probably feels good about things because they got a piece of the section title, and it hasn't gone all, peachy for Warwick. The Hail Mary loss, escaping E-Town, etc. Barassa tearing them up. Tough game at Cocalico, but I think that'll have them chiseled and battle tested and ready for this game. And they're at home. We have very few LLE teams.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. That's a very good point.
There's anybody getting a home game here in this first weekend, but Warwick gets some home cooking, and I think they'll take advantage of it. So I'll go Warriors. And they know they were supposed to play Mifflin in the final last year, and I'm sure they love a crack at them. They know they're good. They know they're waiting. It'll be a year late, but I think they'll get that matchup. So Warwick.
I'm also taking Warwick as well. We should mention in Class 5A, Manheim Central is seeded number 2. They have a first-round bye. They will face the winner of Friday's Exeter Southwestern first-round game. So that'll be next Friday at Manheim Central, either Exeter or Southwestern, whoever comes out of that. Let's go to District 3 Class 4A tournament. Number 9 seed Octoreros, 8-2 overall, going to number 8 seed Northern York, 6-3 overall. The winner advances to next week's quarterfinals at top-seeded Bishop McDevitt. That'll be at McDevitt next Friday. We can talk about that. Octoreros coming off a 35-13 win over Northern Lebanon. Northern York coming off a 6-0 loss to Waynesboro. And you guys have kind of been harping on this all year. Octoreros has been playing with a chip on its shoulder, given what's happened. There's a couple of losses, including the one to Columbia that they almost won there. So it just feels like Octoreros is on a mission. I hope they pull this out, because I would be really interested to see what they would be able to do at McDevitt next week, which we can talk about. But it just feels like Octoreros has the edge on the numbers, and it just feels like they have the edge just in attitude and going into this game.
I think that Northern generally plays bigger schools. Their overall schedule is against bigger schools. But I look at their resume, and again, I don't see a quality win. I don't see a game that stands out to me. Shippensburg is a very good team. Shippensburg beat them 21-3. 6-0 loss to Waynesboro, week 10. I mean, were they resting people? What? That's a weird one. This isn't an easy call, but I've liked Octorara's team all year. I think they're very balanced. I think they're well coached. Love the quarterback. They do everything pretty well at their level. At their level. Now, Bishop McDevitt will be several levels up, but in this spot, I like Octorara.
First District 3 playoff trip for the Braves after one trip in District 1 back in 2014. So good for those guys. Fourth year in the league, fourth year in the district, and they're in districts. That's pretty good. And we kind of know where Octorara came from. They were not a traditionally strong football program, and look what they've done. Stoltzfus did get through the regular season without a pick. 20 touchdowns, no picks. That's really good.
Not bad.
Excuse me. Mike Trainer had a huge week last week against Northern Lebanon. 265 rushing, put him over 1,000.
Wow.
Love their balance. Their last two games have been really nutty because 2 weeks ago they had 600 yards against Danville Cleona. So their offense is just scorching right now. 450 yards a game, number one in the LL. So love that. Love the way they're going. I have Octorara circled. That might be your Homer LL pick of the week. Sorry, Polar Bears. But their offense is really scorching. And chip on the shoulder, the whole spiel. First time in District 3 playoffs. And I'm gonna go Braves on the road behind enemy lines because they'd love a shot at McDevitt. And good on those guys. Here they are, and I think they win. So I'll go Octorara.
All right, sounds like we're all going Octorara. By the way, District 3 Class 4A playoffs, first round buys, Lampeter Strasburg. They'll face the winner of Conrad Weiser and Big Spring next Friday. And then number 5 seed Cocalico will be at number 4 seed Berks Catholic next Friday, and number 6 seed will be at number 3 seed Kennerdale next Friday as well. So LS, Cocalico, Donegal, they are in the playoffs, but they're off this week. Let's go to District 3 Class 3A. Number 7 seed Lancaster Catholic, the Crusaders, 6-4 overall, going to number 2 seed Boiling Springs, 9-1 overall. Catholic coming off a 27-0 loss to Donegal. Meanwhile, Boiling Springs have a good win, coming off a 29-28 win over Steel High in a game in which they scored a touchdown with 58 seconds left to cut it to 28-27. They go for the 2-point conversion win, go through the air, and they get it. 2-point conversion pass, and they beat Steel High 29-28. So you got to feel like two teams going in opposite directions, as we say multiple times throughout this season. Jeff, I think you have a couple trivia notes as far as Lancaster Catholic, some milestones anyway with the Crusaders. Will Cranford. That he did with passing yards.
He went over 1,000 last week. Yeah, he went over 1,000 last week. You got it. Whoa, wow. I was like, wait a minute, where's John going here?
Way to prompt him.
He went over 1,000 last week. This is a pretty cool stat, I think. This will be the third time these teams will have played in districts. It's been a little while.
How about that?
Third time they'll meet. Catholic won both, 52-0 and 62-7. I mean, granted, that was a decade ago, but whatever. So they kind of dominated the series here. But Bubblers, we got the Bubblers, we got the Polar Bears. This is great.
Nice.
Cool week for nicknames.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, did Steel High have a loss? Was Steel High undefeated going?
Yeah, no, they weren't. They in fact, they've been struggling a little bit. Steel High, but still, yeah.
I mean, that's a big win. They're the state champs, especially the way that they did it. I have Boiling Springs circled. Their lone loss was to Mechanicsburg way back in week 4. So,
they won 6 in a row.
Yeah, so they're playing really well. Good on Catholic for getting back into districts. It's been a couple of years, 2-3 years since they've been in. Cranford hit 1,000 last week. They'll need a big game from Tony Cruz, who is just a smidge under 800 rushing yards, I think. And they need Mason McClare to come up big in special teams like he has done a bunch this year. Return to kickoff for a touchdown. He's going to have to get. They're going to have to get the ball in his hands quite a bit, I think. But I have the Bubbler circled at home.
All right, Mike. What quality ones does Boiling Springs have?
There you go.
Well, I don't think they have a great win, but they have a lot of solid ones. And Steel High's a good win, but Steel High I just checked, they've lost 2 in a row. I had the sense that they were laboring a little bit lately, and they have lost 2 in a row. But yeah, Boiling Springs has had a good year. They've been really solid, and 9-1 against a solid schedule. I mean, I don't see a standout super win, but a lot of solid wins. And Lancaster Catholic has made a lot of progress this year compared to where they were a year ago. But this is now you get to your reward for that kind of progress is to step up, and this is a tough spot. So I like the Bubblers here pretty prohibitively.
All right, I'm also taking Boiling Springs. Staying in Class 3A, this game is on a Saturday. Number 8 seed Northern Lebanon, 4-6 overall, going to top seeded Wyomissing, undefeated, 10-0 overall. This game kicks at 1 p.m. Saturday. Northern Lebanon, I believe, is in the playoffs for the first time since 2017, second time in 7 seasons, and 6th time overall. However, the Vikings still have not won a district playoff game yet in their history in this tournament. And I don't see it happening this Friday. Wyomissing have won the last 2 District 3A crowns, and they've been just pounding on opponents, outscoring them 460-90 this year. Meanwhile, Northern Lebanon's been outscored 181-263. You guys can probably tell me more about Wyomissing. I know you've seen them a bunch, both of you, the last few years in the playoffs anyway, as far as what they bring to the table.
Well, you mentioned that Northern Lebanon made districts in 2017, and they had a really good run at the end of the previous decade. But the last couple of years, they really bottomed out. I mean, they were among the worst programs in our league. So to get back this year with a rookie coach and get 4 wins, it's similar to what I just said about Lancaster Catholic. You make some progress and you pick yourself up and get back in the race a little bit, and this is how you get paid for it. This would be the biggest upset in the state of Pennsylvania this year if Northern Lebanon wins this game, and it's not even close. This is a gigantic challenge. Wyomissing has been absolutely dominant at their level. I mean, they're not playing 6A schools and they're not beating, Mifflin and teams like that over in Berks County, but they're beating the teams that are remotely at their level and dominating them. They do it with a very simple formula. They run the ball, they play a 5-man front most of the time. I mean, it's very, very old school, but they do incredibly well. And this is honestly a gargantuan mismatch.
Bud Kyle will win Coach of the Year in Section 4, but I hope Jason Rice gets some votes. I don't know when those votes were due. If they were due before the district bids came out, I don't know. But Jason should get some votes for what they've done there. I mean, they were 2-34 or something the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Pain, John, pain. That's what YO brings to the table. Yeah, they bring a lot of pain.
They bring the pain. Jeez,
they bring pain. They beat Southern Columbia at Southern Columbia this year, and that
decisively.
Yeah, by 20.
Decisively.
Yeah, they're good. I didn't do a deep dive into winning streaks and district titles and all that. I just didn't. But the balance, they have 3 kids with 500+ rushing yards. The quarterback hasn't thrown a pick. 7 touchdowns, no picks. Not that they're throwing a whole heck of a lot. Fundamentally sound, old school football team. Beat you in the trenches, run the ball.
If form holds, they will be at least in the state final. If form holds. I don't know about AAA schools and way out in Pittsburgh. I don't know about that. But if form holds, they will be in the state final.
Yeah, they're really good.
By the way, I just want to point out Wyomissing next year when the Berks and LL League merger happens. Wyomissing will be in Section 4 alongside Donegal Elko, Octorara, Cocalico, Lampeter, Strasburg. How about that for a section? That's
And Berks Catholic. Did you say Berks Catholic?
and is Berks Catholic in there too? Wow. Okay.
That would be the best section in the state.
That's a top
That
game every week. Wow.
Relative to size of school, it
yeah,
would be.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That'll be we could just cover LL section 4 next year and that's it. Nothing else.
Maybe we should.
Yeah. All right. YO, I'll take YO.
All right.
Big congrats to Northern Lebanon to getting back in. A great turnaround. They've been a fun story, and they're going to show up and play.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, but YO is a way different animal.
Yeah, you mentioned they have 3 backs with 500 plus rushing yards, and I guess counter to that, Northern Lebanon has given up 2,274 rushing yards, which is second most in the league. So I also have why I'm missing circled. All right, let's go to Class 2A. District 3 Class 2A tournament, I should say. Number 3 seed Upper Dauphin, 8-1 overall, going to number 2 seed Columbia, also 8-1. The Tide coming off a 52-6 win over Pequay Valley. Upper Dauphin coming off a 48-14 win over Newport. It's worth mentioning, I guess, Upper Dauphin is playing on 6 days rest since last week's game was on a Saturday. And just kind of looking at the numbers, it feels like this is a game of 2 different offenses, in that Upper Dauphin loves to run the ball. Columbia loves to throw the ball. I'm all Columbia. I've been on that bandwagon. I think they're going to be playing deep into the postseason. You guys can probably tell me why.
Well, they're great offensively, and they're great at throwing the ball, and they have a great quarterback. And we've sung that dude's praises all year on this show, Robert Footman. He's great. I think he's been the MVP of our league, and they can really light it up. And I doubt that Upper Dauphin has seen anything like their passing game. But I will say this: in the past, when we heard Upper Dauphin, we thought Tri-Valley League and not really good competition. Well, they played this mid-Penn schedule now, and they if you look at their resume, it's pretty strong. They've had a good year. They score a lot of points. They've beaten some people really decisively, and I don't think this is going to be easy. But ultimately, to ask those kids to pass cover against what they're going to be dealing with Columbia, I gotta like the Crimson Tide a little bit.
Yeah, agreed. I have Columbia circled. They've been waiting for this. I hope they're not like overly too psyched up for this, and that can happen. I mean, they've been waiting for this for 10 weeks, and now they got it, and it's here. And I hope they don't psych themselves out and like turn it over a couple of times. Fumble it in the red zone, just something crazy.
It's a good point, Ryan. I know exactly what you mean, and we've seen it happen in the past.
That's a Columbia team that all year it seems like they've been shooting themselves in the foot in the first quarter, and then they have to play from behind, and then they end up winning by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but now that it's the postseason, if you mess up in the first quarter, you're thinking, oh my God, you know what I mean? It's a little different.
Yeah.
It's maybe I don't know, but maybe it's something to think about. It's a good point.
Yeah, it's like that first round of district basketball. You could be 25-0, but if you lose that night, you're done. So that's tough, and that's a lot of pressure on kids. But too much Footman, he has willed them to win. I don't know how many times, where it's 3rd and 12. And he'll get flushed, and he will just tuck it and get 20 yards, like every time. I don't know how he does it. 2,500 plus passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 4 or 5 wides, and hey, Rebus is playing well. In the rain last week, Rebus went for like 160 and a couple of touchdowns. So they can run the ball too. I assume it'll be a dry night on Friday, but hey, Upper Dauphin's going to come and play, like you said. Pretty good resume, and it's a district game, and they're coming to win. But when push comes to shove, it's going to be too much Footman, I think. I'll go Tide. Roll.
This is a little bit of the dynamic that we used to see in the past with Manheim Central when they had their unbelievable run. Where in the first round of states, they'd play a team from the cold regions that had never seen anything like the pass coverage challenge that Manheim was throwing at them, and it was a bewildering thing for them. This might be a little bit like that. Now, as I said, Upper Dauphin's now mid-Penn oriented in their schedule, and that maybe changes the dynamic a little bit, but still, It's going to be tough. And if you get too caught up in man coverage, then as you suggested, Ryan's Footman's going to see that open space and go.
He's gone.
They're hard to deal with. They're
He's
at that size of school, at that level, they're really hard to deal with.
And I do wonder this time of year, as far as Footman, how his body's holding up, just considering, the amount of playing time he's doing, sometimes on the defensive side of the ball and the hits that he's taken and trying to get those first downs, which I bring up to say I found a couple defensive stats that's kind of noteworthy for Upper Dauphin: 26 sacks and 10 interceptions. So it seems like they're getting pressure on the opposing quarterback. And this time of year, that's going to happen, obviously. But I just wonder, if Footman is flush, can he get out of the pocket if he takes a couple hits, and then what happens? But yeah, I've Columbia circled as well here. I can't believe we've actually reached. It just seems like we always go longer on these shows, but that's for the LL League teams and District 3 playoff matchups for this coming Friday and Saturday. So we talked through those. We have a couple makeup games that we kind of want to give a small shout out to. Thursday, I'll be at this one: Biglerville 0-9 going to Pequea Valley 1-8, and then Friday, Garden Spot. This is a makeup game, 4-5 overall, going to Elko 4-5 overall. Anything you guys want to point out there?
Well, another good nickname, Biglerville, Rhines.
Canners.
You are correct, sir.
Yeah, now that's Thursday at 5:00. That's a makeup from week 1.
Oh, that's at 5:00.
Had COVID.
Glad you said that. All right.
Garden Spot Elko is a new game that was just added, because Garden Spot Donegal will not get played because Donegal's in districts, and Elko was supposed to play Susquehanna, but Susquehanna made districts. So Garden Spot and Elko both had a week, and they scrimmaged back in August, so they had a good thing going on. So now they're gonna play for real. Anvil Cleona is I feel so bad for Anvil Cleona. They lose in week 10. They were the bubble team going in. They were number 9 in 3A. So they were the first team out in districts. They were supposed to play Schuylkill Valley from a makeup game from week 1, but Schuylkill Valley made the Eastern Football Conference playoffs.
Oh,
at 2-8, they made the playoff.
That's like remember the old ECAC thing in college basketball? Yeah. That's kind of like that.
Is that the thing that Lebanon played in a couple years ago?
Yes.
I went through all the rankings, and it looks like the only LL team that was still a part of that was Pequea Valley. But in AAA, Schuylkill Valley is going to play Nanacoke in an Eastern Football Conference playoff game.
Throw out the record books when those two get together.
Exactly. It's like 2-8 against 4-6. So anyway, Schuylkill Valley had to pick up the phone, and hey, good for those guys. I'm just busting a little bit. Don't worry about it. But they had to pick up the phone and call Anvil and say, sorry, we're not going to play our makeup game with you. We're going to play Nanacoke instead. So Anvil loses week 10, doesn't make districts as the first team out, and doesn't get to play their makeup game. So only 9 games for the Dutchmen. So sorry, guys. Sorry.
Tough.
I couldn't even tell you where Nanacoke is. Looking at Luzerne County.
Yeah, anyway. Northeast, up in the Northeast. And that Biglerville Pequea Valley game, that's interesting because Biglerville's 0-7, and they've only scored like 3 touchdowns all season. They're really struggling. And Pequea Valley, they've struggled. They have a win, but this is a game the Braves can get. So I watch there. Watch for PV to win that.
Too focused on canning.
Exactly. Too much canning, more football.
There you go.
Yeah, watch the Braves there. That's a winnable, gettable game for Pequea Valley.
We know we'll be back next week. We know Mannheim Central's playing. We know Lampeter, Strasburg, Cocalico, and Donegal will all be in action, and then we'll figure out if the next of those teams that we just talked about will be moving on. This is the vocabulary section of the show. And they're all coming from Mr. Reinhardt. We got 3 of them. Rugged, and Jeff describing the Wilson O-line. Chiseled, Jeff talking about Warwick's schedule being battle-tested. Pain, Jeff talking about why I'm missing brings to the table. All right, this is the point of the show where I ask, where are you at this week? Where are you going this Friday?
I will be at Central Dauphin High School to see the Hempfield and CD East clash, which I am looking forward to. Should be good.
Excellent. I will be at the home office. Bear with me, sports fans. I'm under home care for a little while, as you're probably aware if you follow me online. I can't get out to games here for a little while, so I will be doing the scoreboard the updates on Lancaster Online. I'll be on Twitter, and I'll be handling like the scoring updates and all that stuff. And you can always
Sure, you
find
can
me on
find
Twitter.
a live stream or two of some of these games if these schools are still doing that. But anyways,
Yeah.
Um,
So that's where you'll find me. So the scoreboard page and all that on Lancaster Online with all the updates. I'll be doing that on Friday night and watching on Twitter and following along. So I hope to see you out and about soon.
and I am covering a football game this week. However, it will be Thursday, which I'm glad I brought that up. I was assuming that was a 7 o'clock start. I even
Nope,
looked at
5.
but that's going to be 5 o'clock.
Yep.
Biglerville at Peckaway Valley. I'll be doing that Thursday because I'm taking off Friday since I got to be up early Saturday on the Hershey cross country course by like 9:15 a.m. when it's going to be probably freezing, chilly conditions for the
See,
state cross.
the show is informative even for the people on the show.
That's right.
Learn something new every day. 5
Yeah.
o'clock.
Bubbling
Don't
over with
would have
information.
showed up at like the end of the third quarter.
Right.
Wait a minute. What?
All right. This has been the LL Football Roundtable, sponsored by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. For Mike Gross and Jeff Reinhardt, I'm John Walk. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next week.